Please enjoy this feature presentation of the Crooked River Radio Network. This program is rated for all audiences.
Your host, me, Erik Nannarone, and Pat Morrow.
Yeah, that and's important, you know.
Yeah, obviously, you know, the executive producer, the everything.
I'm your everything, Erik. If these people only knew.
Yeah. If you weren't here, I wouldn't be doing this show. So, yeah. But anyway, today we are going to be talking about, we're going to be playing a hype video for Ohio State, because they start tonight against Minnesota in Minnesota, tonight on Fox. So we'll do that first, and then we'll also talk Browns. We have a couple of videos on defensive tackle Malik Mcdowell, who has a very interesting background. To where he was drafted in 2017, but he's never played a game. You'll find out why once we play these videos, and we'll talk about it.
That should be an interesting story. I know I've followed some of the stuff that he just never seems to be able to catch a break.
Yeah, I know. But let's kick off with the Ohio State video.
Okay, you ready for that?
Yep.
You're listening to Hash Eggs and Football on Crooked River.
China has identified the cause of the mysterious new virus.
Coronavirus.
That the Big Ten has decided to postpone its fall season.
Big Ten parent protest.
Football will return this fall.
Michigan has canceled.
On behalf of the college football playoff semifinal at the All-State Sugar Bowl, I am pleased to present the All-State Sugar Bowl trophy to Coach Ryan Day and the Buckeyes of Ohio State.
Bama bludgeons the Buckeyes, and Saban steps past all arguments.
More than 101 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine have now been administered.
For the government's part, vaccination efforts keep expanding. More than 2 million shots are given out each day to an eager public.
Since 2019, fans going to be permitted inside Ohio Stadium to see an Ohio State football.
Can't wait to hear about this when Ohio State going public with its plans now for the spring game next weekend.
So it's just going to feel like a little bit more normal.
The very end here at Carmen, Ohio, capping off the spring game in front of 20,000 at the shoe. 10,000 frontline workers and their families and 10,000 general admission.
Just a few hours ago, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, announced that they are no longer recommending that fully vaccinated people need to wear masks.
It's time to end the health war. It's coming here. Ohio Department of Health Director Stephanie McDowell will remove all pandemic health orders except those for nursing homes and assisted living facilities, effective 3 weeks from today on June 2nd.
Next 24 years. For the next 4 years, I'll be furthering my education. I would like to represent play football at the
Ohio State University. Ohio State University.
championship. We're going to swing as hard as we possibly can. 1, 2, 3! 1, 2, 3! All right.
And we're back. Are you there? Erik?
Yeah, sorry. I muted myself. What? Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I muted myself to do a quick video on social media during the video. I forgot. But, so, I'm really looking forward to this season for Ohio State. I really would like to see what CJ Stroud can do. I was looking at mock drafts for 2023 because what else do Browns fans do than look at mock drafts for 2 years ahead of time? And CJ Stroud was actually a top 5 pick, which is funny because he hasn't played more than 5 snaps in, for Ohio State, but somehow he's a top 5 pick already.
Well, a lot of that has to do with the where the team is placing. I expect big things from them, but I'm not sure they're going to make a national championship again. I want to see what that quarterback actually does. They had quite a loss there over the last year or two with pretty much everything that was in place because of graduations and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if this coming class is going to be as good. I guess we'll see in time.
The thing is, we need to start stepping up because they've done. I think only like 1 or 2 guys from that class have actually done anything. The rest have just been either they haven't played or they've played like garbage. Like, we need the coaching staff really needs to get them up to speed to get them to play the way they need to play if they expect to play at Ohio State at a high level and make it to the NFL.
Yeah, well, that goes without saying. You have to have everybody stepping up.
Mm-hmm.
But I think basically the team's as sound as it was last year.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess without seeing it on the field yet, which will happen tonight.
Mm-hmm. I actually, one of the guys I'm looking forward to on defense to watch, who actually had a good season, surprisingly after what he went through, was defensive tackle Haskell Garrett, who, if you don't know the story, he got shot in the face in a robbery.
Yeah, I remember hearing something about that.
But he played pretty well after recovering from that. He's one of the only guys who's done anything from the 2019 recruiting class. But hopefully he can keep going on what he's shown already. They have a really good defensive line coach in Larry Johnson, who's probably NFL caliber. I'm really surprised at Urban Meyer didn't try to bring him up to the NFL with him when he took the Jacksonville job.
Yeah. I don't know. Urban seems like he's a bit adrift down there in Jacksonville now.
I just don't see this lasting.
He's making some dumb decisions that an NFL coach wouldn't make.
The whole Tim Tebow project.
Exactly.
Number one. But, like, I don't see him lasting health-wise. He's had to quit both of his jobs because of health.
They were saying, even last night, they were saying that he was firing players over not showing up for camp and everything, when they actually had COVID excuses and that. And, it's rookie coach stuff.
That should be a fireable offense. I mean, people...
He's actually been in the league, or in football, not the league, but he's been in football long enough. He should know better.
It should just be in general, protecting other people. If they're in protocol for COVID, they shouldn't be. And I think according to league rules, they're not really supposed to be at the facility. I could be wrong, but they're not supposed to be at the facility. So for him to cut players over that, he should get fined by the league, or the players' union should go after him.
Well, that's probably what's going to happen. But we'll see. I got something I'm going to throw at you special here. Just because it's Ohio.
Unexpected.
Just because it's Ohio State. Just sit and listen.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Do you follow the Little League World Series at all?
No, not at all.
Well, it was Ohio State versus Michigan in the Little League World Series. Ohio versus Michigan.
Did Ohio win?
Unfortunately not.
Oh, darn.
Yeah. They might have the bragging rights in that, but we have the bragging rights in everything else.
Yeah, it's been quite a while since Michigan actually won, and I hope that trend continues. It's been what?
I know it will until they move on from coaches. I think the Jim Harbaugh experience. I think it was a mistake for them to give him an extension. Because I don't think he's shown anything.
And he's not going to. And that's one of the things that was debatable with his extension. You know, he hasn't shown it. He hasn't been able to beat Ohio State since he's been there.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean,
that Michigan State is a big school.
Oh yeah, I mean, the Big Ten is on the upswing, and I think they just possibly merged with two other conferences because of Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC. I think the Pac-12 and ACC merged with the Big Ten. So now the conference is even getting better because Clemson would be coming to the Big Ten. If that was the case.
Well, a lot of people are getting tired of the same old, and I am too. Every year it's 4 teams, and every year 2 teams play 2 teams, and every year it comes out pretty, it's like that, the definition of crazy, from what I remember of it, is
insanity. Doing something over and over and expecting the same, expecting a different result.
Expecting a different result, exactly.
Yes.
And that's pretty much what you've got here. It's crazy. Because of the simple fact, you've got to get this busted up somehow or other. Or people are going to start losing interest, and that'll be the end of that.
And just going, last thought on Harbaugh, I remember I was watching a documentary. It's like Hard Knocks, but it's Amazon's version of Hard Knocks, and they do NFL, they do college football, they do soccer, and they do rugby versions of this show. And one season was Michigan football, and there were so many times in meetings where they would look at the player. Harbaugh would be talking, and the players are looking at him like, "What is this guy talking about? This dude, is he on something right now? Like, or is he just mentally out there?" Like, he would say stuff that, even as a viewer, I'm like, what? What did he just say? And then they would show the players, and they'd have the same look on their face as, what? They can't say it because they have to respect him, but, they had the same look on their face as a viewer. And it's like, this dude just is... this dude needs to go if they want to have a chance at a conference championship.
Yeah, that's true.
And then, what do you think about the kid that they recruit they just got, that Quinn Ewers, who skipped his senior year of high school and is now coming to Ohio State?
You're gonna get when you got a big school like that, you're gonna get these guys that just really want to get there. And that I don't see that much of a problem except for the immaturity. The reason it used to be that you had to go through 2 years of college in order to get into football, and you actually had to play on a college team that long. With the rule changes and everything that's going on, they pretty much did away with any age requirements, and it's kind of sad to take somebody that young and let him play in the college ranks.
I think they're going to redshirt him. I don't think they're going to play him, though, because they still have Shroud.
Well, eventually he's going to get in there, though, and that's when you're going to see if he's mature enough to play or not. They can redshirt and whatever all they want. He's still going to be playing football.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But the thing of it is, they might put him in a lot earlier and possibly destroy him because he just got a huge probably, I think, $1 million deal for advertising deal, because now they're able to make money in college.
We had this discussion on another sports show that I do, or that we do here, and they're actually talking now about going into the high school ranks and starting these kids being able to make money from the get-go.
I did not know that.
There was a movement. I don't remember what it's called, but they said that what's going to happen with it is once it's going to be, 11th and 12th grade high school sports are actually going to be approachable by agents and everything else, and they're going to be able to make millions of dollars off their name.
I don't that.
And the leagues that they're wanting to put them in are going to be paying them $200,000 or $300,000 a year for like 8 or 10 games. It was something else.
We had talked about that. I remember I was filling in on that sports show that you were talking about, and I had mentioned something about having a developmental league for these kids who don't want to go to college but possibly want to make the NFL. Because these other leagues like the USFL, AAF, and XFL that are being formed, these kids can't go into right out of high school because there's guys who have played in the NFL and who are just bigger, faster, stronger, and not ready to verse.
And that's exactly what I mean by maturity, Eric. You can't take somebody that's 17, 18 years old and expect him to be the size he's going to be when he's 24, 25. It's just not going to happen.
These developmental leagues have to have good training staffs and stuff like that. They need to be affiliated with local, really good state-of-the-art facilities, because they're not going to be able to have their own practice facilities. Look at there's another developmental football league. I forget what they are called, but they mostly play at high school fields. Like, I know there was a team in Akron that played out at Coventry High School. So they're a semi-pro league, but they play at high school. They're better high school fields locally. Like, I think there's teams up in Cleveland this year. The thing is, the league can't keep a team for more than, like, a team in one city for more than a year or two. So, like, for example, I know this year there's the Cleveland Cobras. I think they either play at Glenville or St. Ignatius or Ed's. One of the three. I don't know.
I'd have to wonder about what's going on with that that fiasco they had down there at the Hall of Fame the other night, where that team came in, nobody even knew who they were, and they played football against somebody else, and I don't know that they don't even know if it was a sanctioned game. The details on this are starting to come out a little bit here and there. Have you heard anything about that?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
There was two teams that played down at the Canton Hall of Fame, that stadium. And they don't know if it was sanctioned. The team had reneged on paying anything for the lodging and that for its players, and it's a mess. It's been all over the news here. But nobody's really sure who they even were, and that's pretty sad when you're sanctioned by the Ohio High School Athletic Association, and nobody knows who they are. Interesting.
Yeah, I wonder. That's a little suspicious there. But since we're a little limited on time today, let's get into the Malik McDowell thing, because we have a couple videos before we talk about it.
You want to play them both?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, this is
if you can play the one, not the one from Cleveland.com, but the other one first.
Not the podcast?
No, the podcast.
The podcast first.
Yeah, the podcast first, then the longer one first. The 3-minute one, which is the podcast.
All right, we'll be back on the other side of this. You're listening to Crooked River Radio and Hash, Eggs, and Football.
Now, there's been a lot of comments and viewers on YouTube especially that have been commenting about Malik McDowell.
That's what I was going to hit on.
Okay, and we haven't really talked about him a whole lot on this show. We haven't really gone back through, and honestly, I don't really even know the story, so I was just kind of looking it up.
Would you like me to read it to you? It's rough.
Yeah, read it to me. I can chime in because I got it pulled up here too. But let me just say real quick that when this guy came out in 2017, he was drafted in 2017, he was projected as a first-round pick. So, I mean, talent was not a question. It was some other stuff.
Right. So he was drafted in the second round.
Seattle.
Right, to Seattle, out of Michigan State. Was supposed to be, he's all Big Ten. He's supposed to be, probably a starter, first couple years. Crashed an ATV, was out for, I think, a couple years. Then was sentenced to jail for 11 months for a series of crimes. Let's say...
That was the same year.
Same year. Let's say charged with assault, resisting arrest, operating a vehicle while intoxicated after an incident where he fought two policemen at a DUI
very
stop.
Cleveland guy.
Yeah. I don't know about that. You mean like are we talking about like Barkevius Mingo on the side there? Is that what was going on there?
Oh, I knew that was coming up today.
So for me, I understand then the Browns have said, hey, we researched this guy a lot before we offered him, a spot to come and compete for a position. To me, I'm just like, if you're trying to, I don't know. It just makes me super nervous having.
A lot of his things that he was arrested for.
Yeah,
it probably all happened in the same night. I'm assuming.
I sure hope so.
I'm saying the operating the vehicle while drunk led to being probably in trouble with the cops, which then he fought back because he was wasted. I'm not trying. I'm not trying to excuse him.
No.
So these are all separate
he was
things?
arrested for driving under the influence on September 22nd.
Oh boy!
And then he had this 12 months of probation. Then he was arrested again in December for disorderly conduct.
Okay. So tried to give him a chance.
I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. It's just one isolated drunken incident.
And so I think it's safe to say that if it comes down to character as what's being picked over, hey, it's between Tommy and McDowell here. They're both giving us the same stuff on the field, but Tommy's never been in trouble.
No.
So
I think you're right. Tommy's a lock.
Yeah,
I mean, unless he comes into training camp and just sucks for some reason, but I don't see that
I think
happening.
It's a toss-up between McDowell, Wilson. I think
McDowell's obviously got the talent. It's just his head's
got the strike.
He have his head on his.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see, but I think it's a very interesting battle to watch, and I think it's going to take all camp to figure it out.
One guy who the Browns liked and who has really showed up a little bit, Malik McDowell. Take a listen to Kevin Stefanski on Malik McDowell.
Real excited for what Malik was able to do this preseason, and I really go back to when he first got here in rookie minicamp and first learning our techniques and our schemes and those type of things. And then you see a player gradually getting better. So he did have some moments last night, also very physical at the point of attack.
Let's welcome back in Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for The Plain Dealer, as well as Cleveland.com. Mary Kay, what have you seen from Malik McDowell, and how impressive is it that the Browns went out and found a guy who hadn't played in 4 years, and he was productive?
Well, you know what? He's gotten better. Every single time I look out and watch Malik McDowell practice, he keeps getting better and better. He was hampered a little bit by hamstring in the off-season workouts, the OTAs and things like that. But he's back healthy now, and he's coming up that learning curve very quickly. He's getting good coaching from Chris Kiffin, and he's getting good mentoring from guys like Malik Jackson. And he's doing a nice job. He's knocking off the rust. He's putting the time in, putting the work in. And he's a big, big man. He's 6'6", 295, takes up a lot of space in there inside, and I think he'll be a part of that tackle rotation pretty early on.
Yeah, there were a couple of plays yesterday where he took the center and backed him up about 4 or 5. I mean, it looked like something from the movie The Blind Side, because he just walked an NFL center back 5-6 yards.
Okay, and we're back. That was a surprise when they signed him, because the fact that all the Browns have preached is high character. They don't want any guys who have any legal off the field issues, but still they signed him. So when they signed him, people were like, why are you signing him? And by the way, thank you to the dog. What was the name of that pod? The Sports for Cleveland, and I forget what the other one was. I think it was Dog Bite Cleveland Browns podcast, I think was the other one. I just want to give them credit.
Yes, we thank them for providing the content and allowing us to use it.
Yeah. But I was really shocked when they signed him because of what Stefanski and Andrew Berry preach of high character, business-oriented guys who don't cause trouble.
Eric, I hate to tell you this, but you need to move your camera over a little bit. You're almost completely off the screen. There you go. Isn't that better, folks? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
We can actually see your smiling face now. But go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. The fact that they signed a guy who has a bunch of legal issues kind of shocked me. Like, knowing that he spent a lot of time in jail. Well, he spent 11 months on probation and then another 11 in jail. So there were two separate instances that he got caught for. So in that video, in the first video we played, where they said it probably all happened in the same night, unfortunately for him, no, it happened over a 3-year span. Starting in 2019, he spent 11 months in jail.
Well, the way I would answer that, if I was the Browns and Kevin, talk about you, and I gotta fix my own mic, or my own camera. The way I would answer that is they've got resources there, scouting and everything else, that knows what a lot of these players are about. And for them to take and pass on somebody like Malik, it'd be a mistake, and they knew it.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of passing on him, they thought they'd give him a chance. I mean, that's not the first time they've done that. You've had problems with Odell Beckham. He's been injured more than he's been on the field. You've had problems with Kareem Hunt. Look at what he did a couple of years ago. Was out of the league. Yeah. And he was fortunate that John Dorsey was with the Browns. And the fact of it was, you can't just, if it's legal issues, you can't just bypass the player unless it's really bad. If somebody has taken and got on Twitter and put a bunch of derogatory tweets out about different people and that's a different story.
Yeah, like nobody
buys that.
Like the one guy who mostly threatened the life of a local talk show host a couple of years ago.
Even you're going through this even with the Jeopardy. Well, look what happened to Mike Richards' guy.
Yeah,
but
he said something derogatory about a certain group of people. Almost 8 years ago.
If it's something like that, you don't deserve the job. But on the other side, if it's something that it could be a little questionable, is probably something they're not going to do again because they've learned from it. You make sure that they've learned, and you might give them a shot.
But with the Jeopardy thing, he said it in 2013. Like, what are you... I'm not excusing what he said, because what he said was wrong.
That's your standards for the world today, Eric. There is stuff that's been cut off, and even look at the cartoons from back in the 40s and 50s. How many of them aren't playing now? I can think of about 100 Bugs Bunny things you'll never see again. And what it comes down to is...
political correctness?
It's not politically correct today. And a lot of it's violent and everything like that. And they're not wanting to promote that.
But they're fine with promoting stuff that 99% of what's on TV is very sexual. And not saying that's bad, but, I mean, to some people, in some people's opinion it is. I'm not really saying one way or the other. But, you know, everything is... We live in a really sexual society. They're fine with putting that on, but like you said, a Bugs Bunny skit from 50, 60 years ago, they're not okay with putting on.
How about something from 1920? If you look back in history, you've had your culture has changed so much in 100 years. Even in 50 years, it's changed. Mm-hmm. And when you start saying, "Oh, we're not going to allow this because the culture's changed, so they can't play," you got the American, the national anthem by Kate Smith and Nobody Allaire because she did stuff in the 20s that was derogatory to people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is where society's wrong. I don't mean to get into the political side of this, and we need to move this back.
Well, go back to when we were talking about the, players with, you brought up Kareem Hunt, what he did. Back in 1920, that wouldn't have been, I mean, obviously there's not social media, but I think even back then, if there was cell phones, that video wouldn't have been surfacing all over the place, all over the news. That would have been brushed under the rug. And, okay, to a point, that's the good thing about society now, that is exposing people, because abuse was, okay, I might be wrong, but people weren't, if they were getting abused back in the day, they weren't open about it, because they were afraid even to go to the cops about it. But nowadays, which is right, people are more open, is what I'm trying to say. It's a more open thing. It's a more known about thing.
In some aspects, I agree with that, but in some aspects, it's just wrong any way you look at it.
No. Oh, I'm not... in no way, I will disclaim right now, I'm not supporting abuse. I'm saying that people are way more open, well, depending on the kind of abuse. I mean, I think in some aspects people were afraid, no matter what kind of abuse back in the day, to open up, tell somebody about it, or even tell the cops. Nowadays, people are willing to be more open about it.
But, that tends to lead to a bunch of other stuff that can be derogatory to the original point. The whole thing comes down to, you have these copycat people that, especially when you go into the abusive sides of some of this. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I was abused by him. Oh, yes, well, so was I. I remember a time, and,
yeah,
who knows if it's true or not. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like COVID numbers. You just don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah, not to get into that, but I feel like the numbers are going up, and that's just a scare tactic. I mean, I'm not saying COVID is not a thing. Don't get me wrong. But it's not only a scare tactic, but what happens, what do the hospitals gain the more COVID cases and deaths that they have?
Can you see cash? Can you see your screen? It's this.
Yes.
The good old-fashioned cash.
Again, not to say it's not a thing and there's not a lot of people sick, but partially I think it's a money grab.
Oh, I see. I completely agree with that. Most of the stuff that you're seeing today is all money grabs, and it's sad.
Yeah, it's all about... money is important, don't get me wrong. But it's not end-all, be-all. Obviously, you need it to live. Like, with things being so expensive nowadays, you can't just expect to live off of $11 an hour. But So you need a job, even making $15 an hour, you almost can't live off of. Maybe if it was yourself, but if you're raising a family, you can't successfully live off that. That's why, unfortunately, unlike back in the day where the man worked and the woman stayed home and, took care of the house or took care of the kids, you can't do that anymore. This society is totally different.
Yep. That's exactly right. Anyway, let's get back on point here.
Yeah. So, off track, guys. I know we're a sports podcast, but we just,
Before we do get back on point, I did notice a few things as I've been scanning around to see who's watching. We have a few D-Live listeners today and D-Live watchers. Welcome to you. It's nice to have you here. We are on this thing called Crooked River Radio that is a 24/7 music broadcast company where we actually play live videos and we actually do live shows. This is one of them. This is our first show on the air here. I do want to welcome anybody that's listening to us off of social media. This is also our first shot for our station on Spreaker. I don't know if there's anybody over there because I can't monitor that. But if there is, if you are listening to us on Spreaker, take and leave us a comment. Send us a message, whatever. I'll see it and I'll respond to you.
And I would like to say hi to Melanie if she's still watching, because I know she commented at one point in the video.
So we are getting a few listeners here, surprisingly, and watchers here. Surprisingly for a Thursday afternoon or a Thursday morning or afternoon, depending on what part of the world you're in.
Mm-hmm.
But we do welcome everybody and thank you for tuning in with us, even if it's for a couple minutes.
And since we're talking about the station, I would like to take a couple minutes or maybe a minute, I don't know, we'll see, to just promote the other shows to help them get some views. So, Saturday morning from 11 to noon, 4 Guys on Sports, hosted by Sean Morrow, produced and co-hosted by Pat. Radioactive.
Wait. As far as the 4 Guys on Sports, that's actually the hosts of that. There are 4. Hence the name 4 Guys on Sports.
Yeah,
I'm the executive producer of everything that's on Crooked River. But the other 2 hosts are Nate Waters and Gordon Waters. They're brothers, and
I forgot their last name,
they're
okay.
It's a quite interesting listen. The show's starting to pick up quite a few listeners, and we're enjoying that too.
Sorry to Nate and Gordon, I did not mean to forget you guys. Radioactive, which is Sunday from 7 to 9, I should know, because I've been part of it, with Pat, Flora,
Dale,
John Brown when he's not on his boat, Melanie, Justine, and
Keith.
Yeah.
And that actually is the Starship show, or that's the kind of the boat anchor for the station. That's the first podcast we started with, and it's kind of the anchor for the rest of the shows. And then on Tuesday night we do a show called The World According to Elmer that actually stars Jerry Sorensen, who's a little bit under the weather at the moment. In fact, I'm waiting for word on him. That we actually talk. You have to understand with Jerry, I actually Elmered him into the world of amateur radio, and Elmer is helping somebody who helps you get into stuff and get into the hobby. And with him, we talked about doing a show with the concept of I'm there for the information, and he's there to ask the questions. And that's a fun show to do. We get started on stuff like...
It's very informative.
We got started on a thing that was happening in Florida about some woman having her insulin pump interfered with by amateur, or by what she thought was amateur radio, but doing the research, there's no way it could have been. But we talked about that for an hour, and that hour was one of the most interesting hours I ever sat through.
By the way, was that guy ever able to put up his antenna again?
No, not
once
so far.
Not
so far. That's still a work in progress there. And if you get a chance, go to the Crooked River Radio Facebook page. We actually have that article listed there that you can actually watch. What?
Okay.
As we speak, the ARRL has responded to that.
From what I heard from my wife, the ARRL's responded to that article. So I think I'm going to have to go look at that. But that's beside the point. Those are some of the shows that we've got on the station. I've got another one or two in the works. And hopefully by the time this gets done, we're going to be, between podcasts and live shows and music, we're going to be quite a station here. We're working to try to get that. I love the listeners that we have here, but I'd love to have a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Make internet radio what it should be, because people confuse internet radio and podcasts.
The other place that we do have a lot of listeners is Roku, and I do appreciate all those listeners and watchers too. Although there may be some good things coming to Roku from here. I'm researching now to see if we can get some of our live broadcasts on there.
That would help us substantially, because I think once people can see what we are and who we are, that's gonna really draw people. Because, like I said, people confuse podcasts and internet radio all the time. I mean, this is technically a podcast, but I consider it a podcast off of a internet radio show. It could be the same thing.
Yeah,
mostly.
Pretty much. I think it's the same.
But
all right, let's get back to topic here. I got one I want to lay on you. What's your predictions for the first Browns game?
I don't remember what the line was for
Kansas City by 6.
I would say that's probably about spot on.
You think that Kansas City is going to win?
Yeah, as much of a Browns fan as I am, I'm also a realist, and the offense is good for the Browns, but the defense has so many questions, because you have almost a whole new unit of guys. You have 9 new players on defense. There's 11, for those out there who don't know that. So you have a lot of team chemistry to build. And by the way, most of them didn't play in the preseason, which I think was really stupid. I get you're trying to protect them from injury, but you need to get them out there. You need to get them the team chemistry, the reps that they need. I get there was a couple guys who were injured and you wanted to keep them from getting injured worse, but you got to put them out there.
I'm going to disagree with you completely. I think that Cleveland has got a really good shot of winning this game. If they see, or which I know they have because they probably watched that Super Bowl game over and over and over again.
Yeah.
If they see some of the stuff that Tampa Bay did to Kansas City to win, I know they're going to follow that, and they really do have the resources to do that. When you added Jadeveon Clowney Myles Garrett to that team, you could not believe the amount of change that's going to be on that defense. Even though I will give it, they probably won't be great for the first couple of games just because of the fact that they didn't practice that much. And the practice thing, if you go into college football or if you go into even a high school football, how many practice games do they do?
0. Well,
that's the point. The whole thing of it is
college they don't, but high school they do 1 or 2 scrimmage games.
Oh, scrimmages is another thing, and Cleveland has done that too. They've done scrimmages. That's what the New York Giants thing was about.
True. Yeah.
So as far as being prepped, I think they're ready to go. We'll see. I think it's going to be. It'll be a tight game, but I'm thinking it's going to be Browns by 6.
I've had conversations with people about the whole, are you new style of coach, or are you with the new style of coach or the old style Andy Reid type, which means, are you for Andy Reid, Bill Belichick, who play their players, or the Sean McVay, Kevin Stefanski, all the young coaches who don't play the starters in the preseason?
I'm for anything Stefanski does. I'm for.
Does.
Yeah, that's probably been the best coach since Marty Schottenheimer.
I'm for that too. I'm just kind of throwing out the opposite opinion there.
I myself think it's going to be Browns by 6. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
I don't know that I completely agree with all the 53-man roster cuts, but there was a couple of them that I thought they should have redone, or they shouldn't have done. They cut that quarterback, and that kid did really well.
Yeah, I agree, Loletta. He should have been either added to the practice squad or on the 53-man, definitely. There was 1 or 2 that it was smart for them to cut JoJo Natson, the kick returner, because, one, he's also a receiver, and he's like 5'8". If they need to play him at receiver because of injuries, okay, they list people at a height, but they might not actually be as tall as they say they are. The dude's maybe a little taller than I am, and so that's saying something.
The big question that I have for the Browns right at this moment in time is, what are they going to do for a kicker and a field goal kicker? And
yeah,
they've got the punt returner. They've got the punter, but I'm not so sure what they're going to do about the extra point kick. That concerns me to a large point. If they would have been able to keep Parkey, that would have been a different story. I wouldn't have been that concerned. But
I think that was a good move, because Parkey, anything more than 40 yards, he can't make. Yeah, I know the other kid that they kept missed a 56-yard field goal or something like that. Okay, unless you're Justin Tucker, the kicker from Baltimore, you're not going to make that, or make it on a consistent basis.
Phil Dawson would have made, the longest Phil Dawson ever made was 55 yards.
Yeah. So unless you're Justin Tucker or Phil Dawson, you're not going to make it.
Well, they need somebody that can. Yeah, that's going to be the best of the teams.
Honestly, they need to bring in Phil Dawson as during camp as a special assistant for the kickers.
Well, they did that with Josh Cribbs a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Cribbs was a special teams coach.
And that's smart. Bring in your alumni, which nobody else, all the front offices and coaching staffs have like tried to distance themselves from any alumni, other than Jim Brown, who seems to be there all the time. He's the one consistent, but he has no say or anything. He's just a face.
Yep. Well, it's that time. We've run the gambit of the hour.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Not bad for the first show. We'll be back again to try this again.
Yeah. Thank you everybody for listening. Thank you, Pat, for your time. Because again, without you producing this show, we wouldn't be a show. But thanks for everybody for listening. This has been Hash, Eggs, and Football, Episode 1.
And a lot more to follow.
Yes, and just before we go, we'll be on Monday mornings.
Yeah, we'll be Monday mornings at 11 a.m.
Yeah, Monday at 11 a.m. And during the football season, clearly, because it's hashtags and football, it'll be football. Mostly Ohio State and Browns, but we'll sprinkle in notes from the league. And then then off season, we'll have a lot of fun with different types of topics. But with that, we leave. Have a good day, everyone.
Have a good day.